Welcome to Gluten-Free Psychiatry. I'm your host, Dr. Daniel Williams. This is episode 14. We finally have proof that Agent Orange causes dementia. The evidence didn't come out until 2024, so it's brand new. What I'm offering the world today is to download and share for free a copy of my independent medical opinion letter that makes the case. It's a few pages long with the research summarized and references and everything that Agent Orange causes dementia. And that's been out of fashion forever, particularly since 1993. So we're going to get into that and listen to the evidence here. So our topic today is Agent Orange causes dementia. So this is an independent medical opinion, all right? That means that I can do an evaluation of medical records. I can do an evaluation of symptoms enough to see if it fits your paperwork and offer independent medical opinions. When it comes to Agent Orange and dementia, it's really hard to make that connection for people. And we lack the data until 2024. So this graph here shows basically how you get from an exposure of a toxin, it gets to the next step on your body somehow or in your body. It's absorbed, inhaled, eaten, swallowed, and things like that. And then you want to show that it causes some disease, and they call that causality. Well, you can't inject someone with Agent Orange or any other toxin and give them a disease. You can't do that. So the closest thing you can do is first show it in cell culture lines, petri dishes. I used to do this work when I didn't get into med school the first year. I got out of the Army to go to med school and got no interviews and didn't want to get out of bed for 3 days. And I got a job at the University of Texas Northeast campus there in Tyler. And it was in a lab maintaining and running and doing different experiments on stored frozen cell culture lines. That research was having these E. coli bacteria create human proteins. We would insert the DNA we wanted, and basically they would make human clotting factors, all the several clotting factors that stop your blood from bleeding. So I've done that kind of work and I know how they do that. And they can basically order out of a catalog any sequence you can imagine of different viruses inserted into bacteria to splice and make whatever protein you want. It's all a commodity, has been for a long time. So you have to show in the lab with one of these researchers like Pierre Neuenschwander in Tyler, Texas, did show me about 23 years ago that in the cell culture line, can you find the biological mechanism of action on the DNA that causes the protein to have that particular cancer on the cell? Can you show it at that level? That came out in 2023 for Agent Orange. We have that now. Check that box. And the next one is animal models. These have been missing. The next step is you now have to inject Agent Orange into some rats and see, do they get dementia? Well, the only way you can tell Alzheimer's dementia with those beta amyloid plaques that they're so known for is after the person is dead or the animal's dead, you have to get brain tissue. You don't actually officially diagnose Alzheimer's dementia definitively without pathology there at the end. So that makes it very difficult to prove. You can't do the human trials. You're not going to inject this in people. So these two missing links have been found. We had the research for exposure. Let's go over that for a minute. So in 1981, the United States Secretary for Health and Human Services announced at a press conference, and the New York Times was reporting, that's what this article reference here is, number 7, entitled, U.S. says its planes dumped Agent Orange near its bases. And if you read that report, they go on to say, we think the public should know this. And that there's quotes from people that worked and did this work that said they had no idea when they got into this work that they would be dumping this Agent Orange on their own troops. And the secretary goes on to talk about how many people got Agent Orange dumped on them, basically uncountable, if I'm paraphrasing. Okay? It was thousands or hundreds. It was a lot of them. It's too hard. They did it all the time. They were poisoning everybody. It got on them. And it can be inhaled and breathed in. That's what this reference number 8 is. Cleveland Clinic website there. We'll talk about how it could supposed to land on the leaves and defoliate the plants so you can see them from the air and shoot the enemy. They can't hide in the jungle. But if your troops are in there, or any other humans in there, including the enemy troops that this landed on, then it could land on their food and they could eat it and get it in that way too. So through the skin, inhaled, and eaten orally somehow, or even if it's in the water supply, like PFAS and a lot of other Monsanto's brands. So we've got them all now. That's the good news. And the point of this is that I have created this document you can download right now. In fact, this PowerPoint you're looking at, you can click on the PowerPoint itself to look, but at the bottom of the page, you'll find this document and you can share it. I just ask that you cite it properly and don't edit the PDF in its original format, please. That's all I ask. But this could create a trend. Right now, I don't know if this article is going to work for a service connection on a veteran I recently applied for. It's a well thought out argument. We've got the pieces. Stay tuned to Gluten-Free Psychiatry, because I'm going to do an update later to let you know whether or not this is approved. If this gets approved because we've got the missing link, there ought to be a tidal wave of veterans with cognitive problems. And let me speak to that. If this applies to you or your family member, I've got some advice for you. Okay, I can do screenings on Zoom or through my platform that's secure to do some kind of assessment that gives an objective number. It's called a MoCA test, the Montreal Cognitive Assessment. And so if you have a memory issue, you should get that checked, because here's what we know. 90% of the time, delirium and dementia both are missed all the time in hospital and clinic settings, because we're not asking. We're also not asking about trauma and sexual thoughts that people suppress. There's a lot of things we don't talk about, and this is one of them. People think, oh, I'm just getting old, I'm having a senior moment, and they're excusing the behavior. And the family members and loved ones, if they see them every day, they don't realize how far they slipped because they slid down far. And by the time you come to talk to a doctor like me, that person is severe and needs, nursing home health. And they would be in the severe category most of the time before they come to clinical attention. I believe more than half the time. I don't have data on that piece, but practically speaking, dementia is obvious. I would say 75% of all my psychiatric patients, in sitting in the room with them for 5 minutes, you can tell. And 25% are doing a great job by coming in while it's mild or moderate. And so that's what I'm saying. If you've got dementia or mild or moderate memory loss, and if you had Agent Orange on your skin, let's do some research. I think we could send your blood test or your ionic foot bath results off to a lab and see if Agent Orange comes out in a foot bath. Man, let's get some papers out there. Wouldn't that be a nice scientific paper? I'd advocate for that, and that would be a great research step. I've shown that the forever chemicals do come out, which is the firefighting foam. It's contaminated from industrial waste too. Everything waterproof has PFAS in it, the polyfluoroalkyl substances. And I'll bet you that since Roundup comes out in a foot bath, glucose, iron, I've shown, I haven't published that yet, but it's coming out on a test strip and you can see the red flakes in the water. And this PFAS I've got data on. Several large molecules come out. Did I mention lead? Neurotoxins come out of the body in an ionic foot bath. And so I don't want to just present this to help you get a service connection. I also want to teach you how to get better. So check out the rest of the podcast for more tips. And join me live too. I've got this entire program online for free. You don't even have to buy my book if you don't want to. Any journal will do if you don't want to read the original PTSD Academy podcast show notes. You don't need that. That's not what this is for from a lot of people here. So any journal will do, is so long as for 100 days you would document what you're trying to do for your physical, your mental, and spiritual and emotional. You need to write down 4 things per day for 100 days. That's a lot to ask. Try 10 days if that's too much. That's fair. I filter my water all the time, but that was an overwhelming thing to take on. So I started with a 30-day challenge of filtering my water with a good enough filter like a Brita, or I've got better ones mentioned on the other podcast episodes. Check out the first 2 or 3. And if I can filter out fluoride for 30 days, see how you feel. Try that. Try that. And you'll see how little daily habits is how you change and turn the giant ship. So that's it for this episode. If you've got questions about, compensation and pension evaluations for veterans with dementia, even mild cognitive loss, if you think you just have regular senile dementia and you don't think you have any problem other than just mild moments of forgetting your words or something like that, if you've been minimizing it, I'm telling you, the Vietnam veterans, you are trained to minimize. What happened to you with the draft and the way you were treated by the public when you came home, you never had a voice. And I just love that we've come full circle with getting a PTSD diagnosis figured out from your generation. And now with my wild story, I accidentally figured out how to do healing on top of it. So I can teach you and heal and release that stuff without talking about it in painless methods you could learn yourself. I call it mind shift care for a reason, where I can care for you until you get the mind shift. And when you see it all differently, you're going to have choices again on how you want to choose to release this energy, this residue on the body that is the real problem. Okay, I'll stop there for now. This has been episode 14 of the Gluten Free Psychiatry Podcast, online right now at mindshiftcare.com.